This is Marcus's story, from the day he ignored the quiet one to the day he couldn't ignore him anymore. They didn't just ignore me. They erased me. To them, I was the background noise of life, the person you talk over, step past, forget the moment you turn around. They called me a nobody. Not once. Not twice. So many times that I started hearing it even when they weren't around. But here's the funny thing about nobodies. Nobody notices them. Nobody watches them. And that makes them dangerous. Because while they were laughing, while they were building their lives on top of my silence, I was becoming something they never saw coming. And by the time my name was everywhere, it was already too late for apologies. Before this story begins, write in the comments where you're watching from. And if you believe silence can be louder than revenge, make sure you stay till the end. This is not a story about luck. This is a story about patience. The first time they called me a nobody, it was said like a joke. We were standing in the break room of a downtown Chicago office building, the kind with glass walls and fake plants that never die. The coffee machine was broken, again, and everyone was annoyed. I had just offered a suggestion. Nothing crazy. Nothing bold. Just an idea. That's when Marcus laughed. Not a loud laugh. Not even a cruel one. Just enough to turn heads. He looked at the others and said, "Relax. It's not like he matters." Then he looked straight at me. "Come on. He's a nobody." Nobody defended me. Nobody disagreed. They just smiled. Or looked away. Or pretended to check their phones. That was the moment I learned something important. People don't have to hate you to hurt you. Sometimes, all they have to do is agree that you don't exist. I swallowed my words and walked back to my desk. Cubicle 47B. No window. No nameplate. Perfect. They treated me like furniture after that. Useful. Replaceable. Silent. When something went wrong, it was my fault. When something went right, it was team effort. I stayed late. Came early. Worked weekends. And still, when promotions were discussed, my name never entered the room. I once overheard my manager say, "He's reliable, but forgettable." Forgettable. That word followed me home. It echoed in my apartment, the kind with thin walls and flickering lights. It stared back at me from the mirror when I loosened my tie. I didn't look powerful. I didn't look important. I looked exactly like what they thought I was. A nobody. But what they didn't know was that I was listening. Watching. Learning. Every insult. Every shortcut they took. Every lie they told to get ahead. I wrote nothing down. I remembered everything. Because when you're invisible, people talk freely around you. They confess without realizing it. They brag. They underestimate. And underestimation is the greatest advantage a nobody can have. The turning point didn't come with thunder. It came with an email. Subject: Mandatory Staff Reduction Meeting. I wasn't surprised when my name was on the list. Of course it was. The nobody always goes first. They laid me off on a Friday. Security walked me out like I'd stolen something. Marcus wouldn't even make eye contact. As I stepped onto the sidewalk, holding a cardboard box with my entire career inside it, I heard someone behind me say, "He'll be fine. People like him always land somewhere. People like him." I smiled for the first time that day. Because they were right about one thing. I was about to land. Just not the way they imagined. That night, sitting alone in my apartment, I made myself a promise. Not out loud. Not dramatically. Just a quiet decision. I wouldn't argue. I wouldn't explain. I wouldn't beg to be seen. I would disappear completely. And when I came back, They wouldn't recognize the nobody whose name they used to forget. There's a strange freedom that comes with losing everything. No expectations. No reputation to protect. No one watching. When the world decides you're a nobody, it also stops paying attention to what you do next. That's when real work begins. The first week after I was laid off, I didn't panic. I didn't call anyone from the office. I didn't update my resume. I didn't post a single new beginnings quote online. I woke up early every morning anyway. Same time as before. Same routine. Except now, instead of a tie, I wore silence. I sat at the small desk in my apartment, opened my laptop, and started rebuilding myself from the inside out. Not loudly. Not impressively. Methodically. Here's something no one tells you. The people who rise fastest are rarely the smartest in the room. They're the most prepared. And preparation doesn't look like success in the beginning. It looks like obsession. I revisited every project I'd ever touched at that company. Not the official reports, the real work. The shortcuts. The inflated numbers. The deals that looked legal only because no one questioned them. I remembered the conversations they thought I wasn't hearing. Marcus bragging about manipulating quarterly forecasts. My manager taking credit for ideas he barely understood. Executives pushing deadlines to hide losses. They were sloppy. Because they thought no one beneath them mattered. I wasn't beneath them anymore. I was outside their system. And that meant I could see it clearly. Money was tight. I sold my watch. Cancelled subscriptions. Ate the same meal 3 days in a row. But every dollar I saved went into one thing. Skill. Not motivational courses. Not fake gurus. Real, boring, unglamorous skill. Data analysis. Market behavior. Digital infrastructure. I learned how companies bleed without realizing it. How numbers lie. How trends whisper before they scream. I wasn't trying to get another job. I was trying to become unavoidable. 3 months passed. No one from my old life checked in. Not one. And that hurt more than being fired. But pain has a way of sharpening focus. One night, while scrolling through industry news, I saw it. A small article. Buried halfway down the page. My old company was expanding aggressively. New markets. New investors. The headline sounded confident. But the numbers? They were fragile. Overextended. Overleveraged. One wrong move. And the whole thing would crack. That's when I understood something crucial. Revenge doesn't require confrontation. It requires timing. I didn't rush. I waited. I watched their public announcements. Compared them to internal patterns I remembered. They were repeating the same mistakes. Just louder this time. I began sharing anonymous insights online. Nothing dramatic. Just thoughtful analysis. Sharp observations. I never mentioned names. But people noticed. One post got shared. Then another. Industry professionals started following the account. They didn't know who I was. They just knew the voice was accurate. Relentlessly accurate. The first message came from a private equity analyst. Short. Direct. Who are you? I stared at the screen for a long time before replying. Then I typed. Someone who sees what others miss. From there, doors opened quietly. No announcements. No celebrations. Just conversations. Consulting calls. Strategy discussions. I never raised my voice. Never oversold myself. I let the results speak. Because when people think you're invisible, they don't expect precision. And precision scares them. 6 months after I was laid off, something happened. My old company's stock dipped. Not a crash. Just a stumble. Analysts blamed the market. But insiders knew better. Whispers started. Doubts. And then, a major investor pulled out. The news hit the industry like a cold wind. I watched it unfold from my small apartment. No smile. No celebration. Just confirmation. The machine was cracking exactly where I knew it would. That night, my phone buzzed. An unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Almost. Hello? I said. There was a pause. Then a voice I hadn't heard in months. Marcus. He sounded different. Less confident. Less amused. Hey, he said awkwardly. Long time. I leaned back in my chair. The nobody was finally being noticed. Marcus didn't say my name. That's how I knew he still didn't recognize me. Look, he said into the phone, clearing his throat, I heard you've been consulting. The word sounded strange coming from him. Like he didn't quite believe it himself. I've been working, I replied. Short. Neutral. Silence stretched between us. He laughed nervously. The same laugh he used to cover uncertainty back in the office. Yeah, well, things are moving fast over here, he said. A lot of pressure from the top. We could really use someone who understands the numbers. Someone who understands the numbers. I almost reminded him that I'd tried to help once. Almost. Instead, I asked, what makes you think I'm that someone? Another pause. I've seen the analysis going around, Marcus said. Online. It's sharp. Whoever's behind it knows our industry better than most. I smiled. Not because of pride. Because of irony. You want advice, I said slowly, or you want reassurance? Marcus exhaled. Honestly? Both. That was the moment. The moment the balance tipped. We agreed to meet in person. Neutral ground. A coffee shop near the river, glass walls, polished wood, expensive but pretending to be casual. The kind of place where deals get made quietly. I arrived early. Sat in the corner. Watched people walk in and out without noticing me. Old habits die hard. Marcus walked in 10 minutes late. Still well-dressed. Still confident in posture. But something was off. His eyes scanned the room differently now. Like someone searching for answers instead of attention. When he saw me, he froze. Just for half a second. Then he recovered. Hey, he said, forcing a smile. Didn't expect you to look so relaxed. I am, I replied. We shook hands. His grip was firm, but not dominant. He sat across from me and ordered quickly, like he wanted to get this over with. So, he said, leaning forward, I'll get straight to it. We're expanding faster than planned. The board's nervous. There are inconsistencies. Inconsistencies, I repeated. Minor, he added quickly. Fixable. I nodded. Show me the data. He slid his tablet across the table. I didn't rush. I sipped my coffee. Let the silence stretch. Because silence makes people fill it with truth. We just need a fresh perspective, Marcus said. Someone outside the internal noise. Outside. That word tasted familiar. I finally looked down at the screen. The numbers were worse than I expected. Cash flow issues masked by optimistic projections. Delayed liabilities. Pressure hidden behind press releases. They hadn't just made mistakes. They'd built their future on them. You're balancing a house of glass, I said calmly. Marcus frowned. What? One bad quarter, I continued, and this collapses. Investors will panic. Regulators will look closer. You'll lose control of the narrative. His jaw tightened. We're not there yet. No, I agreed. But you're close. He leaned back, rubbing his temples. What would you do? He asked. That question landed heavier than he realized. Because once upon a time, he wouldn't have asked me anything. Now he needed me. I'd slow expansion, I said. Restructure quietly. Absorb the hit before it becomes public. Marcus shook his head immediately. We can't. The board expects growth. Then you're choosing optics over survival, I replied. He looked at me like he wanted to argue. But he didn't. Because deep down, he knew I was right. Can you help us? He finally asked. Not as a favor. As a plea. I studied his face. The man who once laughed at me in the break room. The man who called me a nobody. I felt no anger. Just clarity. I can advise, I said. Independently. Of course, Marcus said quickly. Whatever you need. I stood up. I'll send terms, I added. And Marcus? He looked up. Don't underestimate how much people remember, I said softly. His smile faded. That night, I didn't celebrate. I didn't feel victorious. I felt patient. Because the real revenge wasn't helping them survive. It was deciding whether they deserved to. 2 weeks later, my analysis began circulating publicly. Not linked to my name. Not directly. But unmistakable. Industry blogs started questioning the company's strategy. Analysts echoed concerns. The stock dipped again. Harder this time. Marcus called me 3 times that day. I didn't answer. Because now. They weren't just noticing me. They were reacting to me. The first headline didn't mention my name. It didn't need to. Questions rise over aggressive expansion strategy. Neutral words. Polite concern. But beneath them was fear. The stock slid again that morning, nothing catastrophic, but enough to make investors uneasy. Phones rang. Emails stacked up. Emergency meetings filled calendars. Inside the building where I used to work, confidence cracked like thin ice. Marcus called again. This time, I answered. Where are these leaks coming from? He asked, skipping greetings. They're not leaks, I said calmly. They're interpretations. Interpretations don't tank confidence, he snapped. Reality does, I replied. Silence. Then his voice softened. We need to control this. That word again. Control. The illusion they were losing. They invited me to a strategy meeting. Top floor. Glass walls. Same room where my name had never been spoken. I almost laughed when the email came through. Almost. Walking into that building again felt surreal. Same lobby. Same security desk. Different energy. No one laughed loudly anymore. No casual confidence. Just tight smiles and hurried footsteps. The receptionist didn't recognize me. That felt wry. The boardroom was full. Executives. Legal counsel. PR advisors. All eyes turned when I entered. Not with dismissal. With curiosity. Marcus cleared his throat. This is our external consultant, he said. He's been advising us. No title. No introduction. But this time, no one interrupted me. I listened more than I spoke. Because panic makes people talk. They blamed the market. The media. Anonymous analysts. Anyone but themselves. When they finally turned to me, the room went quiet. What's your assessment? The CEO asked. I met his gaze. You've already lost the narrative, I said. Now you're deciding how much else you're willing to lose. A murmur ran through the room. You can still survive, I continued, but not by pretending everything's fine. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. The CEO leaned back. What do you suggest? I paused. long enough for discomfort to bloom. Transparency, I said. Selective, strategic transparency. The lawyer stiffened. You'll need to admit miscalculations, I added. Restructure leadership. Show accountability. Marcus's head snapped toward me. Leadership, he said. I didn't look at him. Markets forgive mistakes, I said. They don't forgive arrogance. The meeting ended without resolution. Too many egos. Too many fears. But something had changed. They weren't looking past me anymore. They were watching me. That afternoon, an industry podcast dropped an episode. The host's voice was calm. Curious. I've been speaking with an anonymous strategist, he said. Someone who predicted this downturn months ago. I listened from my apartment. The host quoted my analysis almost word for word. Social media picked it up within hours. Screenshots. Threads. Speculation. Who is this guy? Whoever he is, he's been right every time. For the first time, my phone buzzed nonstop. Journalists. Analysts. Unknown numbers. I ignored most of them. Because timing matters. That evening, Marcus showed up unannounced. At my door. I almost didn't open it. Almost. He looked smaller up close. Not physically. Emotionally. We need to talk, he said. I stepped aside. He paced my living room like it was a trap. You're behind this, he said finally. The posts. The podcast. I never hid my opinions, I replied. You're destabilizing us. I leaned against the counter. You destabilized yourselves, I said. I just described it accurately. He stopped pacing. Why, he asked. Why now? I looked at him. Really looked. And for the first time I saw it. Recognition. Slow. Uncomfortable. You don't remember me, do you? I asked quietly. His brow furrowed. I smiled. That's okay, I said. You will. The next morning, everything exploded. A major outlet published a deep dive. Numbers. Sources. Patterns. The stock dropped hard. Emergency press conference scheduled. The CEO resigned for personal reasons. Marcus was named interim head of strategy. The irony was almost poetic. And then, they said my name. Not loudly. Not officially. But enough. A journalist tweeted. Hearing that the anonymous analyst guiding recent market calls is a former insider, once overlooked, now impossible to ignore. The tweet went viral. My inbox filled. My phone rang. And for the first time in my life, people were saying my name. Before I entered the room. The morning the article hit, I didn't need coffee. The city, the industry, even my old colleagues, it all felt electric. Screens lit up with my name. Threads exploded. Podcasts dissected every word I had ever written. They called me the Phantom Analyst. They called me the whisper no one could ignore. They called me a force. And Marcus called me a nightmare. It started with emails from reporters. Can we get a comment from the analyst who predicted the downturn? Your insights are being credited across financial blogs. Who are you? Anonymous or not, we want your name on this. I didn't reply immediately. I let the curiosity build. Let them wonder. Let them panic quietly, knowing I existed but refusing to show myself fully. Then came the conference call. Marcus, sweating in his office, finally confronted me. I know it's you, he said, voice tight. Stop hiding. Tell me your name. I leaned back in my chair. A slow, controlled smile. Oh, Marcus, I said softly. You always called me a nobody. His face turned pale. That's impossible, he stammered. I held his gaze. Not impossible. Just ignored. The news cycle erupted that day. The nobody he laughed at for years had become the voice everyone listened to. Blogs credited my strategy with stabilizing the industry. Analysts cited my predictions as evidence. Investors whispered my name in interviews. And Marcus? He couldn't escape the truth. Every headline, every social media post, every market mention, it was my name, my work, my timing. That evening, I walked past my old office building. Glass walls glimmered in the setting sun. Inside, I could see Marcus pacing, frantically flipping through reports. He didn't notice me. And I didn't want him to. The irony was perfect. Years of being dismissed, now I was the measure of their survival. I called my assistant, someone I trusted completely. Arrange a meeting with the CEO, I said. Public conference. I want to reveal my identity strategically. The assistant hesitated. You mean, everyone will know it's you? Yes, I replied. But on my terms. The day of the reveal arrived. Cameras flashed. Journalists crowded the room. Marcus was there, sweating in a suit he hadn't earned, pretending to control the narrative. I walked in confidently. Neutral, calm, collected. The same calm that had terrified Marcus in every silent observation he had ignored. When they asked for the phantom analyst's identity, I stepped forward. I said. Pause. The person you all called a nobody. Silence. Then murmurs. Then chaos. Marcus's face went white. The board, previously smug, now scrambled. Reporters fired questions. Phones rang. Social media blew up in real time. Who is this man? Unbelievable rise. The nobody who controls their fate. The tables had turned completely. The first public humiliation came minutes later. A journalist asked Marcus, on live stream. Did you underestimate him? Marcus stammered. Well. I didn't interrupt. I let the moment breathe. Let the world watch. Because the silence after a truth lands is louder than any shout. And that silence was deafening for him. By the end of the day, my name was trending worldwide. Investors requested meetings directly with me. Marcus had to answer questions he had no answers for. And somewhere in the back of that chaos, I allowed myself a small smile. Not out of cruelty. Out of justice. The person they dismissed as nothing was now everything they needed. The city never sleeps. Neither did the news that day. Every financial outlet had my name in the headline. Every analyst on TV repeated my insights verbatim. Every investor conference began with the question. Where is the analyst who predicted everything? And Marcus? Marcus was spiraling. He called me again, desperation coating his voice. I need a meeting. Now, he said. This isn't sustainable. I agreed. Not because I had to. Because timing matters in revenge. And this was the perfect moment. The meeting was held at the company's new boardroom. Glass walls. Minimalist decor. Expensive but sterile. He looked every bit the CEO he thought he was, confident, in control, but the truth was written across his face, panic. I entered calmly. No introduction. No apologies. No explanations. Marcus, I said. That's the only name I need to use today. He froze. I let him stew in that silence. Your investors are worried, I continued. Your employees are confused. Your board is scrambling. And you? I paused. You're pretending nothing is wrong. Again. He swallowed. I'm in charge here, he said, voice strained. But the board, they need assurances. I'm the assurance, I replied, leaning forward slightly. Only this time, it's on my terms. From there, I laid out a plan. Not suggestions. Not advice. A strategy so precise, so undeniable, that anyone who questioned it would look foolish. Restructure departments without layoffs. Shift public messaging to emphasize accountability and foresight. Preemptively disclose minor errors before anyone else reports them. Reward loyal employees, silently remove toxic leadership. By the time I finished, Marcus's confidence had drained completely. He wasn't angry. He wasn't impressed. He was scared. And that, more than anything, was satisfying. The next day, I announced my identity publicly. Press releases. Interviews. Social media campaigns. The media exploded. The world now knew that the phantom analyst was real. The nobody. Suddenly, my old colleagues who had ignored me for years were calling. Some apologizing. Some trying to align themselves with me. Some just trying to survive in the new hierarchy. I didn't respond immediately. Because real power doesn't beg for recognition. It demands it. Marcus tried to regain control. He scheduled emergency meetings. He called investors personally. He even tried to spin the narrative in his favor. It didn't work. Every move I had made was already creating irreversible momentum. I wasn't just influencing the company anymore. I was reshaping it entirely. By the end of the week, stock stabilized. Public perception shifted dramatically. Investors and analysts were clamoring for my insight. Marcus realized it too late. The nobody he had laughed at was now the most important person in the room. That evening, I walked past the old office one last time. Marcus was still inside, pacing, trying to regain a semblance of control. I paused, looked up at the building, and smiled quietly. Because the game had changed. I wasn't invisible anymore. I wasn't powerless. I wasn't a nobody. I was everywhere. And this was just the beginning. The morning air smelled like change. The kind you can't ignore. News outlets were flooded with interviews, analyses, and headlines. From invisible to unstoppable, the rise of the phantom analyst. The nobody who runs the market. Marcus' empire now guided by a former nobody. My name was everywhere. Everywhere Marcus had tried to erase me. Everywhere I had once been invisible. Marcus walked into the office that day. He had always carried himself like he owned the room. Now he walked in carefully, like a man who feared stepping on glass. Every eye followed me as I entered. Executives, staff, interns, even janitors. I had become a symbol. A force. And Marcus? Marcus was nothing but a man watching a tide he could no longer control. The board meeting started. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't boast. I simply sat at the head of the table, no title, no formal introduction, letting the power of my presence speak. Let's begin, I said quietly. The room shifted. Subtle nods. Eyes focused. Phones discreetly put away. I presented the company's new strategy. Restructuring leadership to reward competence, not favoritism. Publicly embracing accountability, turning past mistakes into credibility. Strategic partnerships with emerging players, reversing market perception. Transparent communication with investors.